The Zarkonian Empire had conquered 53 worlds. Entire civilizations had bowed before their fleets. Their war machines turned thriving planets into colonies within weeks. So when Commander Xyler received the order to invade Earth, he almost laughed. "This world will fall in 3 days," Xyler said to his second-in-command, Vorek. His voice was filled with pride. His armored claws tapped against the command console as his ship drifted above the blue planet. Earth, so fragile, so small, the humans had not even spread to their neighboring star systems. Primitive, divided, weak. Xyler had studied their transmissions, wars, politics, endless arguments. Pathetic. They were not united like the Zarkonian Empire. They were not strong. "Commander," Vorek said, adjusting his visor, "their defenses are limited. Nuclear weapons, kinetic projectiles, and small fighter craft. Their navies float on oceans like insects on a pond." He gave a cruel grin. "A single-strike fleet will shatter them." Xyler stood tall, his scaled body glowing faintly under the ship's red lights. "Good, then let us begin. By the end of this week, Earth will know the rule of Zarkonia." The invasion plan was simple: strike their military centers, decapitate their communications, force their leaders to surrender. The same plan that had worked dozens of times before. But Earth was not like other worlds. The humans had been preparing. For decades, their governments had whispered about alien invasion scenarios. Their scientists had designed countermeasures. Their militaries had war-gamed possibilities. In secret bunkers and hidden labs, they had prepared weapons meant for one purpose: to fight the unimaginable. And the unimaginable had arrived. When the first Zarkonian cruiser entered low orbit, something happened that had never occurred on any other conquered world. The humans fired first. A flash of light streaked across the night sky above the Pacific. Xyler frowned. His scanners screamed warnings. The humans had launched a weapon. Not a missile, not a nuke, but something else. It tore through the cruiser's shields like paper. The alien warship exploded in fire. Its burning remains crashing into the ocean below. Silence filled the Zarkonian bridge. Then alarms. More human weapons launched. Hypersonic projectiles, satellite-based lasers, electromagnetic pulses that scrambled Zarkonian systems. Vorek's eyes widened. "Commander!" They were waiting for us. Xyler's jaw tightened. For the first time in decades of conquest, he felt something he had not felt before. Uncertainty. The humans had known they were coming, and they were ready. Commander Xyler had seen empires fall. He had reduced proud civilizations into ash. But nothing in his memory compared to the sight before him now. Zarkonian ships burning in the sky above a so-called primitive world. The humans had hit them fast, with precision, with weapons that should not exist. "How do they breach our shields?" Vorek demanded, panic creeping into his voice. "Our technology is centuries ahead." "Silence," Xyler roared, but the command sounded weaker than intended. His own claws trembled against the command rail. He couldn't deny what he was seeing. Their shields were useless, their stealth broken. The humans had studied them. Not just guessed, studied. On the holographic display, new alerts flared red. Human fighter craft, small, primitive-looking machines with wings and engines, launched from hidden bases. But they were not attacking blindly. They moved with strange coordination, as if guided by something beyond simple pilots. They're using a network, one Zarkonian analyst reported. A battlefield AI. Adaptive. It is learning us. Xyler's heart sank. This wasn't war. This was a trap. "Commander," Vorek said cautiously, "should we retreat to high orbit?" "Regroup. Retreat." The word burned in Xyler's mind. No Zarkonian commander had ever retreated from a primitive species. To do so would be shameful, dishonor beyond measure. And yet, before he could decide, the humans struck again. The ground below lit up as silos opened. Dozens of projectiles roared skyward, but they were not nuclear weapons, at least not in the way Zarkonians understood. These were hybrid payloads, weapons designed specifically for shielded alien warships. Electromagnetic lances, railgun slugs coated with exotic metals, kinetic rods that struck with the force of small asteroids. The first wave tore through 3 more Zarkonian ships. The second crippled a carrier. The third was aimed directly at Xylar's flagship. "Brace!" he shouted as the ship rocked violently. Energy cascaded across the hull. Consoles exploded. Soldiers screamed. When the smoke cleared, Xylar stood amid chaos. His proud flagship, once the symbol of Zarkonian might, was bleeding sparks and leaking atmosphere. Vorek staggered to his side, one arm hanging useless. His eyes burned with fear. "They should not be capable of this," he whispered. "This world, this cursed world, it is not defenseless." Xylar's gaze turned toward the planet below. His scales felt cold. His pride felt hollow. The humans had lured them here, and they had planned for every move. Meanwhile, far below on Earth, in an underground command center buried beneath Colorado, General Nathaniel Briggs leaned over a table covered in holographic projections. His face was weathered, his hair gray, but his eyes burned with grim satisfaction. "They've taken the bait," he muttered. His staff officers nodded, tension thick in the room. For decades, governments had kept silent projects alive, funded in secret, hidden beneath false programs. Humanity had never been truly unprepared. Too many books, too many films, too many warnings from visionaries had told them what might come. An invasion, a war from the stars, and now it was happening. "Sir," a young analyst said, "we've crippled 6 of their ships. Their command structure seems shaken. Should we press harder?" Briggs shook his head. "Not yet. Let them think they can recover. Let them believe we've shown them our best. We haven't even started." A faint smile touched his lips. "This is Earth. We don't roll over. Not for anyone." Back in orbit, Xylar slammed a clawed fist onto the console. "Signal the fleet. All ships, counterattack at once. Burn their military centers. Show these insects what it means to challenge the Zarkonian Empire." "Yes, Commander." The Zarkonian fleet regrouped, unleashing fire upon Earth. Plasma bombardments lit the skies. Cities trembled. Ocean waves rose like monsters from the deep. Billions of humans stared upward in terror as streaks of light carved across the heavens. But humanity was not paralyzed. From hidden bunkers, anti-orbital railguns fired. From deep oceans, submarines launched sky-splitting payloads. From satellites disguised as weather probes, directed energy beams lashed out. And everywhere, humans watched with fury rather than despair. In the chaos of burning skies and collapsing ships, Commander Xylar realized something terrible. The humans were not just fighting back, they were enjoying it. The Earth burned. From orbit, Commander Xylar watched as streaks of plasma carved scars into the planet's surface. Entire city grids went dark. Smoke rose in curling plumes. Humans ran in panic through the streets. To an outsider, it looked like victory, and yet it didn't feel like victory. The Zarkonian fleet was bleeding. For every salvo they unleashed, 2 more ships were struck down by human counterfire. For every city they tried to scorch, a hidden battery fired back, revealing yet another secret human weapon. Vorek staggered toward Xylar. One side of his face burned from the last blast. "Commander, this is not war. This is slaughter. Ours, not theirs." Xylar's claws dug into the command rail. Pride told him to keep pressing. Logic told him to stop. Honor demanded he conquer. But instinct whispered a darker truth. This world was a trap. "This is impossible," Xyler muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. "They are primitives. They live in stone and steel cities. They breathe poison air. They fight among themselves. They cannot have this strength. Yet they do," Vorek replied grimly. His eyes flicked to the display. "Look." On the holographic map, new signals appeared. Human squadrons were not only defending, they were advancing. Fighter craft swarmed around Zarkonian cruisers like hornets stinging a beast. Small, fragile, but coordinated with terrifying precision. "They are adapting," the analyst said, her voice trembling. "Every strike we make, they learn faster." Her words cut off as the ship jolted violently. Another railgun slug tore past, grazing their shields. Sparks showered from the ceiling. "Report," Xyler roared. "Outer hull breached in sections 5 through 9. Emergency bulkheads engaged." "They're crippling us piece by piece," Vorek growled. "This is no accident. They know exactly where to strike." Beneath the mountains of Colorado, General Briggs stood tall in the command bunker. His officers watched as Zarkonian fleet markers flickered and vanished from the map. One by one, the humans were not winning easily. No one would call it easy. Cities burned, lives were lost, chaos raged across the world. But humanity was not lying down. Humanity was not surrendering. "Target confirmed," a technician announced. "Enemy flagship crippled. Shall we finish it?" Briggs shook his head. His voice was cold. "Not yet. Let them live with the shame of bleeding. Let their commander see that Earth will not bow. Psychological warfare is worth more than another wreck." "But sir," the officer hesitated, "we've already lost millions." "I know," Briggs cut him off, his jaw tight. "But if we break them here today, then Earth will never again fear the stars." Around the bunker, silence fell. The staff exchanged glances. They understood. This was no longer just survival. This was a declaration. In orbit, the Zarkonian fleet shifted tactics. Plasma bombardment stopped. Instead, they deployed ground troops. Drop pods rained through the atmosphere, slamming into fields, cities, deserts. Out poured Zarkonian soldiers, towering reptilian warriors in armored exosuits, carrying weapons that could melt tanks in seconds. The ground shook as their boots hit soil. Humans watched in horror as alien war machines advanced. Tanks were crushed, helicopters torn from the sky. Cities became battlegrounds. But then, humanity's second surprise unfolded. In the ruins of a shattered city, a squad of Zarkonian soldiers marched confidently through rubble. One raised his weapon, scanning for survivors. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed. The soldier's helmet shattered. He fell lifeless. The Zarkonians turned. Another crack. Another soldier down. Snipers. Human snipers. With weapons too small, too crude to matter. Or so the Zarkonians thought. Yet somehow these primitive rifles pierced their armor. Coated rounds. Experimental munitions. Designed for one purpose: alien flesh. Zarkonian troops fired back, but humans melted into shadows, popping out from alleys, tunnels, hidden bunkers. Guerrilla warfare. Dirty, relentless, merciless. It was not honorable. It was not glorious. It was effective. Xyler slammed his fist against the display, watching reports flood in. "Our ground troops are being hunted. Their weapons. How can their weapons penetrate our armor?" Vorek's voice was hollow. "They've studied us. Every weakness, every flaw. They knew one day we would come." The commander's eyes burned. Rage and shame twisted inside him. This was supposed to be simple. A conquest. A victory. But now, it was survival. He turned to his bridge crew, his voice low and venomous. "Signal the fleet. We will burn this world to ash. If we cannot rule it, we will destroy it." The crew hesitated. For the first time, Zarkonian warriors hesitated to obey. Fear glimmered in their eyes, and Xyler realized something even more terrifying than human weapons. His soldiers no longer believed in victory. On Earth, General Briggs received a message through encrypted channels, a transmission from one of the world's underground councils, leaders from across nations. "They want us to push harder," his aide whispered. Briggs nodded slowly, staring at the flickering display of the alien fleet. "We're not just defending Earth anymore. We're showing the galaxy something they've never seen." He leaned forward, his voice dark and resolute. "That humans do not kneel." The night sky burned with fire. Cities lay in ruins. Oceans churned with wreckage. Billions mourned. And yet, somewhere, deep in the heart of humanity, a new fire was lit. For the first time in history, the people of Earth stood as one. And the galaxy had begun to notice. The desert was silent. Broken drop pods smoldered in the sand, their twisted frames glowing faint red in the night. Around them lay the corpses of Zarkonian soldiers, scattered like broken statues. Their armor was pierced in places no alien could have imagined vulnerable. But one of them had survived. The Zarkonian warrior groaned, his scaled body pinned beneath shattered plating. He tried to rise, but a cold barrel pressed against the side of his helmet. A human voice spoke sharply in the dark. "Don't move." The alien froze. From the shadows emerged soldiers in desert camo. Their faces were painted, eyes hidden behind goggles, movements deliberate and disciplined. They worked in silence, securing the alien with restraints forged from materials specifically engineered to resist super strength. The prisoner snarled. His voice was guttural, his pride unbroken. "You dare chain me? I am Zarkonian. I will break you, insect." One of the humans crouched in front of him, pulling off her mask. A young woman, face smudged with dirt, eyes like fire. She leaned close. "Yeah," she whispered. "Good luck with that." The squad dragged the alien into a waiting transport. It rumbled away across the desert, heading toward a facility hidden beneath the earth. Hours later, the Zarkonian prisoner found himself strapped to a steel chair in a cold chamber. Human scientists and soldiers surrounded him, their eyes sharp, their notebooks ready. Cameras recorded everything. General Nathaniel Briggs entered, his boots echoing against the floor. He carried no weapon. He didn't need one. His presence filled the room like a storm. "So," Briggs said calmly, "you're the first one we've taken alive. That makes you valuable." The alien spat, a thick black fluid hissing on the floor. "You cannot break me. We have conquered worlds beyond your imagining. You are nothing. You are prey." Briggs smiled faintly, almost sadly. "Funny, you don't look like a hunter. You look like a man who just got his tail kicked by farmers with rifles." The alien growled, but the chains held. A scientist leaned forward. "Tell us your command structure. How many ships? Where's your leader?" The Zarkonian laughed, his voice booming. "You think I will betray my people? Pathetic humans. Even if you defeat us here, more will come. More fleets. More fire. Your world will drown." Briggs studied him, then slowly circled the chair. "Maybe. But tell me this, did you really expect us to fall so easily? Did you think Earth was just another rock to burn?" The alien's jaw tightened. His silence was answer enough. Briggs leaned close, his voice low, meant only for the prisoner. "I'll tell you a secret. We've been waiting for you. Every movie, every book, every weapon we built in secret." He tapped his chest with a fist. "We made it for you. Humanity has been preparing for this fight for decades. Maybe longer. Because we knew one day something like you would crawl out of the sky." The alien's eyes flickered. "Doubt. The first crack. Briggs saw it and pressed harder. You thought you were the hunters. Turns out, you just walked into a trap. You're not the first invaders in history. You're just the biggest. And every empire in history falls. The alien hissed, but his growl lacked conviction. Briggs stood tall, voice rising. We will bleed, yes. We will burn, yes. But we will never kneel. Tell that to your commander when you see him again. In orbit, Commander Xyler was unraveling. Reports flooded his bridge. Casualties mounting. Ground troops cut off. Ships crippled. And now, horror of horrors, a missing soldier. They've captured one of ours, Vorak whispered. His voice shook with disbelief. The humans, they have a prisoner. Xyler slammed his claws against the console. Unacceptable. Send retrieval squads. Burn every settlement until he is freed. But even as he gave the order, he knew it was hopeless. Humans were not careless. They would bury their prisoner deep, surround him with walls of steel and secrecy. And worse, interrogation, extraction, knowledge. For the first time, the thought chilled him. The humans might learn their weaknesses. In the hidden facility, scientists swarmed over alien technology taken from drop pods. Weapons dismantled, armor scanned, data analyzed. The more they studied, the more they realized something shocking. The aliens were advanced, yes, but not invincible, not perfect. Their technology was powerful, but also predictable. It relied on brute force, overwhelming numbers, and reputation. They've been winning because no one fought back hard enough, a scientist muttered. Briggs overheard. His eyes narrowed. Until now. Meanwhile, across Earth, humanity rose in ways no alien could have predicted. In the streets of shattered cities, civilians armed themselves, fighting alongside soldiers. Farmers turned tractors into makeshift weapons. Hackers hijacked alien transmissions, spreading chaos through enemy ranks. Old rivalries. Nations that once threatened each other forgot their grudges in the face of a greater enemy. For the first time in history, the planet fought as one. And somewhere deep inside, the Zarkonian prisoner felt a flicker of fear, not for his own fate, but for his empire. On the Zarkonian flagship, Vorak confronted his commander privately. Xyler, we cannot win this. Look around you. The fleet is breaking. The troops are losing faith. The humans, they're not like others. Xyler turned on him, eyes burning with fury. Do not speak of surrender. We are Zarkonian. We do not yield. Vorak hesitated, then lowered his voice. And what if they don't yield either? The question hung in the air like poison. Xyler said nothing. For the first time in his life, he did not have an answer. And far below, in the silence of a steel chair, the Zarkonian prisoner whispered a thought he had never spoken aloud before. What if they are the monsters? The skies of Earth glowed with wreckage. Alien cruisers drifted like broken lanterns, fire trailing across their hulls. Human weapons had struck deeper than anyone imagined possible. But still, the Zarkonian fleet hung above, a shadow over the world. General Nathaniel Briggs stood in the underground command center, staring at the holographic projection of the battle above. His face was grim, his hands folded behind his back. We've bloodied them, he said quietly. Now we take the fight to space. The room went silent. No human commander in history had uttered those words and meant them. Humanity had never fought beyond the skies. Until now. An aide spoke nervously. Sir, you mean to launch? Briggs nodded. Operation Starfall begins now. Prep the captured tech. We'll use their weapons against them. Deep inside another hidden facility, scientists worked frantically over captured Zarkonian technology. The air smelled of ozone and burning metal. Alien rifles were disassembled, armor cracked open, energy cores studied under heavy shielding. Dr. Evelyn Cross, lead engineer, stood at the center of it all. She was a wiry woman with tired eyes and a brain that never rested. She tapped the console, watching data scroll faster than her assistants could read. "This isn't magic," she muttered. "It's just engineering. Brutal, efficient, but still engineering. Which means we can break it. Which means we can copy it." She pointed to a glowing sphere humming inside a reinforced chamber. "Their power cores aren't stable. They bleed energy. If we feed that energy back into itself, it overloads. A chain reaction. That's why their ships went down so fast when we hit the right frequencies." A young scientist blinked. "Wait, you mean their tech has flaws? Structural weaknesses?" Cross gave a tired grin. "Every empire builds sloppy when it thinks it can't lose." And with that, humanity's counterstrike was born. On the front lines, pilots prepared to fly missions unlike any ever attempted. Their craft were hybrids. Human jets bolted with alien cores, railguns paired with plasma cannons. Ugly, unstable, dangerous, but deadly. Captain Daniel Reyes climbed into the cockpit of one such hybrid. His squadron was the first wave of Operation Starfall. He ran his hand across the patched-up controls, half in awe, half in fear. "This thing feels like strapping myself to a bomb," he muttered into his comm. A voice crackled back, Lieutenant Sarah Holt, his wingmate. "Relax, Danny. Just don't push the wrong button. Or do. Either way, you'll make history." Reyes laughed, but it was tight, nervous. He pulled his helmet on, heart pounding. Humanity had always looked up at the stars with wonder. Now they were going up with weapons. "Starfall Squadron," the command tower said. "Launch." From the surface, the hybrid crafts roared upward, contrails blazing. They pierced the upper atmosphere, engines screaming, then locked onto Zarkonian warships. The aliens didn't expect it. Humans had never fought in space before, but humans had always been underestimated. Reyes' squadron dove into the fleet like wolves among giants. Plasma bursts lit the void. Human pilots weaved between hulking cruisers, their makeshift weapons firing with reckless precision. One Zarkonian cruiser attempted to shield itself. Reyes grinned sharply. "Try this, you lizard freaks." He fired. The hybrid cannon spat a pulse of redirected Zarkonian energy. It hit the cruiser's core. Instantly, the alien ship erupted, a chain of explosions splitting it in two. Reyes hooped, adrenaline roaring. "That's one down." His wingmate laughed. "Guess we're not supposed to be prey after all." On the Zarkonian flagship, alarm screamed. Commander Zyler gripped the console, his face pale with disbelief. "They're flying into our space," he growled. "With our weapons." Reports came in. 3 cruisers destroyed, 5 damaged, human fighters swarming like wasps. "They adapt too fast," one officer whispered. Another muttered, "We can't stop them. Not without reinforcements." Zyler spun, eyes blazing. "Enough. We are Zarkonian. We are the hammer of the stars. We do not lose to vermin." But his crew did not answer with the fire he expected. Their eyes lowered. Their silence screamed louder than any words. Vorak leaned close, voice low. "Commander," they fear. The soldiers whisper. Some ask if this war is cursed. Zyler's claws trembled. Mutiny. The word he had feared now circled like a vulture. "Crush the whispers," he snarled, "or I'll crush you." Vorak met his gaze but said nothing, and that silence was more dangerous than defiance. Meanwhile, in the hidden interrogation room, the Zarkonian prisoner sat in his steel chair. He had resisted for hours, snarling threats, spitting oaths. But the constant stream of news, the constant reminders of failure, broke something inside him. A guard dropped a newspaper on the table. The front page showed a burning Zarkonian cruiser falling into the ocean. The alien stared at it, His jaw clenched. "They should not win," he whispered. "This world should already kneel." General Briggs stepped into the room, folding his arms. "Funny thing about humans, we don't kneel easy." The alien looked up, eyes filled with something new. Not rage, not defiance, but doubt. "What are you?" he asked quietly. Briggs leaned forward, his voice like iron. "We're your worst mistake." Back in space, Starfall Squadron regrouped after another strike. Reyes' ship was smoking, controls sparking, but he was alive. Around him, Zarkonian ships burned like falling suns. Holt's voice came over comms. "Danny, you seeing this? They're breaking. Their formation's sloppy. They're scared." Reyes grinned despite the pain. "Yeah, for the first time in their lives, they're scared of us." Below them, Earth watched. Civilians huddled in bunkers, soldiers in trenches, children staring at the sky. And for the first time since the invasion began, they saw hope. The invincible Zarkonians were bleeding, and humanity was on the attack. On the flagship, Vorak whispered to himself as he watched another human strike tear through their fleet. His voice trembled. "Perhaps the humans are the empire we should have feared all along." Xyler heard him. His claws dug into the rail. Rage boiled in his chest. But deep down, in the dark place he never spoke of, a seed of fear took root. And it was growing. The earth had stopped weeping. Cities still smoldered. Millions still mourned. But somewhere in the chaos, despair gave way to fury. Humanity no longer looked at the sky with fear. They looked with fire. All across the planet, resistance surged. In Europe, railgun batteries hidden beneath mountains thundered, ripping holes in Zarkonian carriers. In Asia, hypersonic swarms launched from disguised silos, overwhelming alien defenses. In Africa, militias armed with captured alien weapons fought beside national armies, forcing ground troops to retreat. In South America, dense jungles became death traps, where Zarkonian patrols disappeared without a trace. The world was no longer divided. For the first time in history, every nation fought as one. General Briggs stood before the Global Council's secure feed. His face was tired, his uniform ragged, but his voice carried the weight of iron. "They came to break us," he said. "Instead, they've united us." Operation Starfall was only the beginning. Now we strike together. The Council, leaders of nations once bitter enemies, nodded. Humanity had chosen war, not survival. War. In orbit, the Zarkonian fleet reeled. Every day brought new losses. Every strike bled morale. On the flagship, Commander Xyler stood before his bridge crew, scales dulled with exhaustion. His once mighty voice cracked as he barked orders. "Hold formation. Bring weapons to full charge." We crushed them in one decisive strike. But his officers hesitated. Their eyes no longer held fire. They whispered among themselves. They avoided his gaze. Vorak, his second-in-command, finally spoke what many thought. "Commander, with respect, this war is lost." Silence dropped heavy over the bridge. Xyler turned slowly, his claws curling. "What did you say?" Vorak's jaw tightened. "We were promised an easy conquest, a primitive world. Yet every day, they tear us apart. Their weapons are crude, but their minds..." He gestured to the burning wrecks on the display. "Their minds adapt faster than anything I've seen." Xyler's voice dropped to a dangerous growl. "You speak treason." "No," Vorak said firmly. "I speak truth." Around them, other officers shifted. None defended Xyler. None challenged Vorak either. The fleet was splitting. On Earth, the interrogation continued. The Zarkonian prisoner, once defiant, proud, now sat slumped in his chair. Chains rattled as he shifted, his eyes dark with something worse than anger. Fear. Dr. Evelyn Cross entered, placing alien schematics on the table. "We've cracked your armor design," she said coolly. "Turns out, all it takes is a little chemistry and a lot of stubbornness. Your empire builds for intimidation, not resilience." The alien stared at the papers, his jaw clenched. "You should not be able to do this. You're kind." General Briggs stepped forward, cutting him off. "Our kind adapts. That's the difference between us and you. You conquer. We survive. You repeat the same war across worlds. We rewrite war itself until it bends to us." The alien finally met his gaze. His voice was quiet. "You are not prey." Briggs leaned close. "No, we're predators. And you walked into our hunting ground." In orbit, the mutiny broke. It began with whispers, then refusals to fire, then entire ships turning away from battle. Vorek stood in a shadowed chamber with captains loyal to him. His voice was low, urgent. "Xyler is blind. He would drag us all to death for his pride. We must survive. We must retreat." One captain hissed, "Retreat is dishonor." Vorek glared at him. "And death is worse. Look around you. Half our fleet already gone. More will follow. The humans will not stop. They will not yield. If we do not escape, the Zarkonian Empire will lose more than a battle. It will lose us all." The captains exchanged uneasy glances. Finally, one nodded. Then another. Then another. The seed of rebellion had bloomed. Xyler, unaware, prepared his final strike. His claws trembled as he activated the command console. A massive weapon appeared on the display. The Scourge Cannon, a superweapon hidden within the flagship's core. It could shatter continents in one blast. "If they will not kneel," Xyler whispered, "then let Earth burn." But even as he armed the weapon, his officers avoided his gaze. Their silence was a storm brewing behind his back. Far across the galaxy, signals carried news of Earth's defiance. Other empires watched, some with amusement, some with horror. A minor trading species whispered, "The humans fight like demons." A warlord muttered, "If they can bleed Zarkonia, perhaps they can bleed us all." And in the distant halls of the Zarkonian High Council, elders sat in silence, listening to the reports with cold unease. Their empire had never known defeat, never known fear, until Earth. Back in the skies above the planet, Reyes' Starfall Squadron prepared for another strike. His ship rattled, patched together with scavenged alien tech. His voice came over the comm, strained but fierce. "They think they can burn us down? Fine. Let's show them Earth doesn't burn. It bites." The squadron dove toward the flagship, engines screaming. Below, billions of humans looked up at the streaks of fire across the night sky. And for the first time in history, they believed, not just in survival, but in victory. On the Zarkonian flagship, Vorek stood behind Xyler as the Scourge cannon powered up. Energy hummed, lights flickered. A weapon meant to destroy worlds awoke. But before it could fire, Vorek's hand fell on his sidearm. His voice was calm, steady. "Commander, enough." Xyler turned, eyes wide, and for the first time, fear entered them. The flagship trembled. Deep within its core, the Scourge cannon pulsed with rising energy, a weapon designed to erase civilizations. Its glow bled through the metal walls, humming like a heartbeat of destruction. Commander Xyler stood tall before his crew, scales glistening under the crimson light. His voice rang like a whip. "Prepare to fire. Earth dies tonight." But the bridge did not move. Not a claw touched the consoles. Not a single officer obeyed. They stared at him, silent, waiting. Xyler's eyes darted across the room. He saw fear. He saw doubt. And, worse than both, he saw defiance. "Do as I command," he roared, "or I will have you all executed." That was when Vorek stepped forward. His hand rested calmly on his sidearm, his voice steady. "Enough, Commander." The bridge went still. For years, Vorek had served Xyler. Through campaigns, through victories, through the endless grind of conquest. But Earth had changed everything. No longer was this war about glory, no longer about expansion. It had become madness. "Look at what you demand," Vorek said coldly. "To scorch a planet not because it resists, but because your pride is wounded. This is not victory, Commander. It is desperation." Xyler's jaw tightened, his claws curling. "You would speak against me? In front of the crew? I would save them," Vorek replied. His voice carried the weight of command now. The officers leaned toward him, not Xyler. The shift was visible, a tide turning. Xyler sensed it. His rage exploded. With a snarl, he lunged at Vorek, claws flashing. The bridge erupted into chaos. Officers shouting, some rushing to Xyler's side, others pulling back, torn between loyalty and survival. Vorek drew his sidearm, firing. The shot grazed Xyler's shoulder, scorching scales. The commander staggered, then struck back, his claws raking across Vorek's arm. Blood, thick, dark, alien blood, splattered across the control panels. Sparks flew. The Scourge cannon groaned louder, its power spiraling out of control. "Contain it," an officer screamed, rushing to the console. But the systems locked, awaiting only the commander's final command. Xyler snarled, clutching his wound. "Traitors, all of you. I'll burn Earth, and every one of you with it." Meanwhile, far below, Earth's skies blazed with fire. Starfall Squadron tore through the upper atmosphere, Reyes at the lead. His patched-together ship rattled, but his voice was unshaken. "We got one shot at the flagship. Hit it hard, hit it fast." Dr. Cross's voice crackled through the comms, guiding them from the ground. Sensors show massive energy buildup inside that ship. Whatever they're charging, if it fires, we're done. Reyes grimaced. "Then we can't let it fire." The squadron dove into the storm of orbital defenses, weaving through plasma fire, ripping apart interceptors with scavenged alien cannons. They were outnumbered, outgunned, but Earth had learned how to fight. And fight they did. Back on the flagship, the mutiny spread like fire through dry brush. In engineering, workers shouted and fought, some trying to stabilize the cannon, others trying to sabotage it. In the barracks, soldiers brawled, claws against claws, brother against brother. The ship was tearing itself apart from the inside. Vorek and Xyler circled each other on the bridge, both wounded, both consumed by rage. "You are a coward," Xyler spat. "Too weak to finish what we began." "No," Vorek said, lifting his weapon again. "I see what you cannot. The humans will not stop. They will hunt us, break us, until the Empire itself trembles. You would doom us all." His words rang true in the crew's ears. They did not move to defend Xyler. They moved to watch. For the first time, the commander stood alone. On Earth, General Briggs and Dr. Cross monitored the flagship's chaos. Intercepted transmissions filled their screens, screams, orders, gunfire. The alien fleet was fracturing. "They're turning on each other," Cross whispered. Briggs leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Good, let them bleed. But we finished the job. Send everything we've got at that flagship. Everything, everything." Around him, officers hesitated. Such a strike would leave Earth vulnerable if it failed. But Briggs's voice left no room for doubt. "This is the moment. Either they break or we do." The battle escalated. Starfall Squadron carved deeper toward the flagship, Reyes' ship trailing smoke, wings scarred. "Whole formation," he barked. "Don't let up." The flagship loomed ahead, colossal, a shadow blotting out the stars. Plasma turrets whirled, spitting fire. One fighter exploded in a burst of light. Another spiraled, flames eating its hull. But still they pressed on. They weren't fighting for orders. They weren't fighting for generals. They were fighting for Earth. On the bridge, Xyler raised his claws for a final strike. Vorak raised his sidearm. The crew held their breath. The hum of the Scourge cannon grew deafening. Lights flickered. Panels sparked. The ship itself seemed ready to tear apart. "You're finished," Vorak said. Xyler bared his teeth. "So are you." And they lunged. At that very moment, Reyes' squadron broke through the last line of defenses. The flagship loomed before them, its core glowing like a sun about to be born. Reyes locked onto the weak point Dr. Cross had identified, the exposed conduits feeding power to the cannon. "Squadron on me," he shouted. Every ship, battered but unbroken, lined up behind him. Engines flared, weapons locked, and together, humanity's finest dove straight toward the beating heart of the alien war machine. The flagship shook like a beast in its death throes. Metal screamed. Bulkheads split open. Sparks rained down on the bridge as Xyler and Vorak clashed in a storm of claws and fury. The crew had scattered, huddling against the walls, their eyes locked on the duel. They had sworn loyalty to the Empire. They had endured countless campaigns, but never had they witnessed such madness. A commander fighting his own second-in-command as their ship spiraled into chaos. The Scourge cannon roared louder, its heart swollen with destructive power. The hum was no longer steady. It was frantic, alive, like something about to burst free. "Stand down, Vorak!" Xyler bellowed, his claws slicing the air. "You betray your blood, your empire." Vorak blocked, stumbled, fired again. The shot slammed into Xyler's chest plate, searing but not fatal. "No, Commander. I betray only you." Gasps rippled through the crew. Far below, Earth trembled under the shadow of the fleet. General Briggs stood at the war table, fists clenched. Streams of data poured across the screens. Transmissions, radar echoes, the screams of pilots. "They're fracturing," Dr. Cross reported, her eyes wide. "The fleet's in disarray. But the flagship's cannon, it's building too fast. If it fires," Briggs's jaw tightened, "then Earth is ash." He looked to the comms officer. "Patch me through to Starfall Squadron." Moments later, Reyes's battered face flickered onto the screen, cockpit smoke swirling around him. "General," Reyes said, voice cracking with static. "Listen carefully," Briggs growled. "That cannon cannot fire. Whatever it takes, you stop it, even if it means none of you come back." Reyes nodded once. A soldier's nod. No fear, just acceptance. Then the feed cut. In orbit, Starfall Squadron soared through fire. Ships burned around them, human and alien alike. The battlefield was a graveyard, wreckage tumbling through the void, flames casting eerie light across the earth below. Reyes led the charge, his squadron clinging tight. Every ship bore scars, patched hulls, scorched engines, cracked cockpits. They were barely flying, but they flew anyway. The flagship loomed before them, monstrous and wounded. Explosions tore through its surface as mutiny spread within. Gunfire crackled through the comms, alien voices screaming. The ship was fighting itself, and that was the only reason the humans had made it this far. On the bridge, Xyler slammed Vorak against the console, claws digging deep. Sparks lit their faces as the commander's voice twisted into a snarl. "You think these humans deserve survival? They are nothing. Vermin. They should kneel before us." Vorak gritted his teeth, pain searing through his body. "They are more than you understand, Xyler. They are fire, and fire burns." With a sudden surge, Vorak drove his knee into Xyler's chest, shoving him back. His weapon came up, one shot, point blank. He fired. The blast tore through Xyler's shoulder, throwing him across the bridge. He roared, scales burning, one arm dangling useless. But still he rose, hatred fueling him. "You'll die with them," Xyler spat, staggering forward. If I cannot rule this world, I will bury it. He slammed his claw down on the console. The Scourge cannon screamed to life. Starfall Squadron saw it. The glow bled from the flagship, a furious white burning across the stars. The cannon's maw yawned open, aimed straight at Earth. Energy spiraled, a storm of annihilation gathering in its throat. Reyes's breath caught. There it is. Target lock on the conduits. Now, every fighter snapped into formation, weapons locking. Their HUDs flashed red warnings. Unstable energy, radiation spikes, death itself. But Reyes didn't flinch. This is its squad. Hit that cannon or Earth dies. They dove. Inside the flagship, alarms wailed. The power core overloaded, arcs of energy ripping through the decks. Officers screamed, some fleeing, others collapsing where they stood. Vorak stumbled to his feet, blood dripping from his wounds. He turned to the crew, voice raw but commanding. Shut it down. Cut power to the cannon. But no one moved. The systems were locked. Only the commander's codes could stop it. And Xyler, bleeding, broken, still stood before them. He grinned, a mad, ruined grin. Let them come. Let them try. They'll burn with us. Reyes's squadron streaked across the void, the glow of the cannon blinding. Turrets swiveled, spitting fire. One fighter exploded instantly, debris scattering. Another took a hit, spiraling away, flames licking its wings. Keep going. Reyes barked, teeth gritted. Dr. Cross's voice crackled through comms. Reyes, listen to me. The conduits are unstable. If you hit them, the cannon will collapse, but it might take the whole ship with it. Not might, Reyes muttered. Will. Silence answered him. His squadron knew what he meant. On the bridge, Xyler staggered forward, his claws leaving bloody streaks on the floor. Watch, he whispered. Watch as I make gods bleed. The cannon flared. Vorak raised his weapon again, shaking, vision blurring. He had one chance left, one final choice. Around him, the crew stared. Not at Xyler, not at Vorak, but at the screen, at the humans diving toward them. For the first time, the Empire's finest warriors saw fear. Fear not of their commander, but of humanity. Reyes's HUD locked on, beeping rapid. His finger hovered on the trigger. The glow filled his cockpit, drowning everything in white. He whispered, almost to himself, for Earth. And he fired. The squadron unleashed everything. Missiles, plasma bolts, scavenged alien cannons. The conduits shattered under the barrage. Energy screamed loose, arcs of fire racing across the flagship's hull. The Scourge cannon convulsed. Its glow surged out of control. The scream became a roar, then a howl, then silence. And then the explosion. The flagship became a sun. Light swallowed the sky. On Earth, every eye turned upward. Cities, villages, battlefields, all looked to the heavens. And they saw it. The death of the Empire's pride. The sky on fire. The flagship torn apart, consumed in its own fury. The ground shook. Windows shattered. The oceans themselves seemed to tremble. But when the light faded, Earth still stood. Alive, unbroken, and watching. The sky burned for hours. The explosion of the flagship had torn a hole in the heavens, a wound of fire and smoke that stretched across the night. Whole cities had paused. Traffic stopped. Battles silenced. People poured into streets, craning their necks toward the burning sky. Some wept. Some cheered. Others simply stood in silence, as if afraid to breathe. For they had seen the impossible. The Empire's might shattered, not by gods, not by kings, but by humans. In orbit, chaos reigned. The Empire's fleet, once a wall of iron, had cracked apart. Command ships drifted, cut off from orders. Frigates turned on each other, firing blindly, unsure who still held authority. Squadrons broke into fragments, some fleeing, some fighting, others paralyzed by fear. And through it all, wreckage tumbled. Shards of the flagship, flaming hulks of cruisers, drifting corpses of soldiers who had believed themselves immortal. The battlefield was no longer war. It was carnage. General Briggs stood at the command center's window, watching debris streak across the atmosphere like dying stars. For a long moment, he said nothing. His hands gripped the railing, knuckles white. Then he spoke, voice low, graveled. "They bleed." Behind him, the room buzzed with frantic energy. Officers shouted, data scrolled, comms sparked with static. Reports of victory clashed with reports of disaster. Squadrons lost, cities leveled, survivors screaming for aid. But none of it mattered. Not in that instant. Briggs had seen the truth. The invincible empire could fall. And if it could fall, then humanity could rise. Reyes drifted in silence. His fighter was ruined, systems dead, cockpit cracked. Smoke filled his lungs with every breath. He barely remembered the moment of the explosion. Only light, heat, a sound like the universe tearing in half. His squadron. He checked the roster. Names blinked red. Too many. But one signal still pulsed faintly. "Reyes," a voice whispered through the static. He closed his eyes, relief breaking through the exhaustion. "I'm here, Vega." Her ship limped nearby, half a wing missing, but alive. Alive was enough. On the ruins of the flagship, life clung stubbornly. The explosion had gutted the vessel, tearing decks apart, shattering hulls. But fragments remained. Whole sections of corridors floated intact, severed from the core, but still sealed. Inside, survivors crawled from fire and ash. Alien officers, bleeding and broken, stumbled through the smoke. Some carried weapons. Others carried nothing but hate. And among them, one figure rose slowly. One arm useless, scales scorched black. His eyes burned with madness. Xyler. He had lived. Barely. Across the wreckage, Vorek crawled from twisted metal. His body was ruined. Wounds deep, blood slick across his scales. But his heart still beat. He dragged himself forward, vision blurred, every breath a war. He had no weapon left, no command, no empire, only a choice: to fade into the void, or to fight for something greater than the empire that had betrayed him. His claws clenched, and he began to crawl. Back on Earth, Dr. Cross worked feverishly in the underground labs. Wreckage from the battle had fallen into the oceans, into fields, into cities. Alien steel, weapons, even half-destroyed fighters. For the first time, humanity had the enemy's tools in their hands. And Cross wasted no time. She and her team tore into the wreckage, prying secrets from every fragment. Power cells unlike anything on Earth. Metal that bent like cloth yet resisted flame. Weapons that could melt tanks with a whisper. "This is it," she muttered, eyes alight with fire. "They gave us the blade we'll cut their throat with." And her hands did not tremble. Above, the remnants of the fleet argued in fire and steel. Some captains demanded vengeance, rallying to strike Earth again. Others whispered retreat, their voices heavy with fear. And some, more than the Empire would ever admit, simply fled. Their ships jumped to hyperspace, desertion etched in their wake. For the first time in centuries, the Empire's warriors questioned their own survival. And all because of one world, one species, humans. Reyes's cockpit lights flickered weakly. Oxygen low, systems dead. The planet's curve glowed below, drawing him in like a final embrace. He coughed blood, his strength failing. But before he blacked out, a shadow fell over him. A ship not alien, not Empire, human, scavenger class. Rusted, patched, ugly, but alive. The hatch opened, grappling claws pulling his fighter in. Voices shouted. Hands pulled him from smoke. Got him. He's alive. Reyes collapsed, tears cutting through soot on his face. For the first time, he realized humanity wasn't just surviving. They were winning. In the void, Vorek dragged himself through fire, every step agony. He crawled past corpses, past flames, past the wreckage of a dream. And then he saw it, a shard of human steel, a fighter cockpit broken, drifting. Inside one of them, a human, alive. The soldier met his eyes, weak but unafraid. No hatred, no fear, just defiance, even on the edge of death. Vorek stared back, torn between instinct and revelation. And for the first time, he bowed his head, not as conqueror, but as ally. The void was silent. The flagship's corpse drifted in pieces, molten scars marking the sky. Alien ships limped away, some fleeing into hyperspace, others drifting aimlessly as their systems failed. The Empire had never known defeat. Not like this, not at the hands of a single planet. But Earth had changed everything. General Briggs stood at the command center, watching live feeds from orbit. His eyes were tired, dark rings carved deep, but they burned with the satisfaction of victory. They're pulling back, an officer said. Briggs nodded. Not just back, they're broken, and they'll remember this. Dr. Evelyn Cross walked beside him, cradling an alien power core, still humming. We have everything we need, she said softly. Tech, weapons, insight. The next war, we won't just survive. We'll dominate. Briggs didn't answer immediately. He let the words hang, letting their weight settle. Humanity had won a battle no one believed they could. But the war was only beginning. And Earth would be ready. In orbit, Starfall Squadron limped together, battered but unbroken. Reyes floated through wreckage, hands shaking from adrenaline and exhaustion. He looked around. The sky was littered with fire, smoke, and death. Many of his comrades were gone, but those who remained cheered, weak but loud, voices echoing through the void. This is real, Vega whispered beside him, tears streaking her face. Reyes nodded. We did it. We actually did it. Below them, the planet glowed with the aftermath of war. Cities smoldered, forests were scarred, oceans churned. But it was alive. Humanity had survived. And more than survived, they had fought back. Vorek crawled through the wreckage of the flagship. Every breath burned. Every step was agony. Blood coated his claws. Yet he moved forward, drawn toward one figure amidst the chaos. A human soldier, weak yet unbowed. He looked at her, eyes heavy with pain, but with something that startled him. Confidence, defiance, hope. You are not afraid, he rasped. She nodded once, grim and steady. I don't have that luxury. And in that moment, Vorek understood. The humans were something beyond the Empire's calculations. Something dangerous. Something unstoppable. For the first time in centuries, he bowed, not as conqueror, but as servant. He whispered, "Then I follow." The remnants of the Zarkonian fleet fled, but not without loss. Entire divisions vanished into hyperspace. Systems were crippled, communication fractured. Fear spread among their ranks. Whispers of humanity, of Earth's wrath, traveled faster than any fleet could. The Empire had underestimated one thing, one species, and that mistake would echo across the stars forever. On Earth, Dr. Cross supervised the reclamation of alien technology. Power cores were stabilized, plasma weapons tested, ships rebuilt from wreckage. Humanity had no master plans, yet, but every discovery, every reverse-engineered device strengthened the planet's hand. She held a small device, humming quietly. With this, she said, we don't just survive anymore. We can strike first next time. Briggs watched her, his face shadowed with pride and caution. Then let them know Earth is awake, and no one will strike us unopposed again. Reyes returned to Earth, landing in a city still scarred from orbital fire. Civilians cheered, soldiers saluted, children ran toward the battered fighter. He stepped down from his cockpit, exhaustion and triumph written across his face. One boy, no older than 10, ran up and asked, voice trembling, Did we win? Reyes knelt, hand on the boy's shoulder. We did, but remember this, the fight isn't over. Not for humanity, not for our home. Today we survived. Tomorrow we rise. The boy nodded, eyes wide, hope sparking where fear once lived. In space, Vorek followed the humans away from the shattered fleet. He had choices now: return to his empire and face judgment, or serve with the humans who had shattered everything he believed in. He looked at Earth, glowing beneath him, the planet that had refused to kneel, and he whispered to himself, perhaps this is where I belong. Across the galaxy, other alien civilizations took note. The minor empires, the distant warlords, the observing councils, all recorded the battle, the human defiance, the impossible triumph. A message was sent quietly, whispered between worlds. Beware, Earth. They're no longer prey. They are hunters. Back on Earth, night fell. The sky was scarred with smoke. The oceans reflected fires from orbit. But life persisted. Humanity survived. Humanity endured. Humanity had won. And for the first time in recorded history, the stars were theirs to watch, not with fear, but with anticipation. General Briggs stood on a hill outside the city, looking at the horizon. Dr. Cross joined him. He said quietly, almost to himself, they came to conquer us. They left in pieces. And we are just getting started. Cross smiled, faint but steady. We've only begun. Let them remember Earth. And somewhere above, the last of the alien ships vanished into the void. Earth had survived. Humanity had triumphed. And the galaxy would never forget.